Thank you for your interest in Kyrene's Elementary Gifted Programs. I'm Beth Snyder, the coordinator of our Gifted and Talented program. My director, Dr. Christy McDougall, and I shared this presentation with parents. This voiceover is an abbreviated version of the presentation from our elementary parent night. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either of us. In this presentation, I will share quick updates and celebrations, information regarding our new elementary program models, the information about our new GATE program model in middle school, as well as resources for meeting the social and emotional needs of our gifted learners. The past year has been very productive and exciting. We have many celebrations, and one of them is the change to our gifted identification process. Previous years, we tested at the district office on Saturdays or on Wednesday afternoon after school. We're excited that students now can be tested at their school sites with a gifted resource teacher and during the school day. In August, we tested approximately 60 students with a 23% identification rate. Our current applications for our November testing is around 125 students. Please feel free to share the information that is posted on our website with friends and family if they believe that their child is gifted and needs to be tested. More updates and celebrations. One of the areas we identified for growth was communication with families. So we're committed to hosting family nights and to improving our online and digital communication with families. In September, we hosted middle school and elementary evening, and we have 2 dates on the calendar for February for both middle school and elementary. All of our web pages have been updated, and we are continuing to improve and work on the usability and friendliness of those sites. We are also proud of our new gifted program flyer and the progress report that your students will be bringing home for elementary. Growth and communication would be incomplete without stakeholder feedback. Our Gifted Advisory Committee is instrumental in the work that we are engaged in for improving our program services. This committee has a wide range of stakeholders, including parents, teachers, administrators, and community members, all engaged in a program evaluation. We have consulted experts and are including research and identifying best practices as we move forward to improve the services that we provide our gifted students. All of the information that we gather both from our data and our stakeholders and our research is informing future recommendations. As I mentioned, the group of stakeholders comes together to evaluate the current program services and make recommendations for future. It's valuable for our community to know that in addition to the Kyrene stakeholders, we also have Tempe Union representation on our committee and community members so that we are looking at the very big long-term picture for our gifted students. We have 2 program models in our elementary, self-contained and gifted resource. Monte Vista and Mirada are self-contained in grades 2 through 5. These teachers have access to new curriculum resources as well as support from a gifted site lead teacher. In all of our other elementary schools, we have a new service model. The gifted resource teacher is focused on enrichment courses for kindergarten through 5th grade. Our gifted resource teachers are no longer the teacher of record for math. All students in self-contained and the resource program have access to advanced math in grades 4 and 5. Our academic enrichment courses are intended to meet all areas of giftedness and have a focus on humanities, interdisciplinary, and/or STEM/STEAM. Enrichment courses are aligned to academic standards but are not intended to replace core content. Our self-contained teachers have the same resources as the gifted resource. And the target for enrichment services is 2 to 3 hours per week, depending on the teacher's schedule. The Primary Education Thinking Skills program is used to service our kindergarten, first, and second grade students. These services are an hour to an hour and a half per week, again, depending on the resource teacher's schedule. Some of the supplemental resources are Breakout EDU, Primary Education Thinking Skills, and some award-winning titles by Dr. Jason McIntosh. Animal Adventures, Exploring America's National Parks, Dinosaurs to Drones, Investigating Change Over Time and Thinking Like a Scientist, Quests and Quandaries, Exploring Intellectual Interests in Depth, Feats and Flops, and several incredible integrated curriculum units that were developed by our own talented, gifted teachers. So the characteristics of a gifted learner is that they can be intense and precocious, and they like complex problems to solve. And these integrated curriculum units are a great way to help these students explore relationships and connections between different content. And so in our integrated units that were developed, we have art integration and creative presentations, presentations that are focused on growth mindset. Some units are just what does it mean to be gifted? We have an engineering design process and all kinds of opportunities for students to really focus on those 21st century learning skills of being a critical thinker and a collaborator and a communicator. Students and teachers are so excited about Breakout EDU. This is such a fun online platform that provides both physical and digital puzzles for students to solve in a set amount of time. These challenges are given to students. They have to work together critically and collaboratively and creatively to unlock the next problem. And so there are physical boxes with combinations and locks that clues lead to breaking the code. So Breakout EDU is a program that we're really excited to provide our students. A little bit more of the power of learning that comes from Breakout EDU is it really does transfer the ownership of learning from the instructor to the students. We often say that teachers need to be the guide on the side and not the sage on the stage, and this program makes that possible. And the 4 C's of the 21st century is about critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and communication. And then, of course, good old grit. We know our gifted learners benefit from having opportunities to fail and then to move forward. So we can't always be successful the first time, and that's something that our gifted learners benefit from experiencing. The Primary Education Thinking Skills program introduces students to different ways of thinking. It also helps teachers see students come alive when they have that unique ability to think like a certain character. So these thinking skills are represented by animal characters. Each animal character represents a different special way of thinking and problem solving. We focus on divergent thinking, convergent thinking, visual spatial thinking, and evaluative thinking. Teachers can see through these lessons the students that really demonstrate strengths in these areas and also help develop these thinking skills in students who may not already have this exposure. Dudley is one of the very special characters in the PETS program. Dudley thinks in a very special way. He's a detective. When he solves problems, he uses clues to arrive at only one correct answer. He's always alert and very careful not to make quick judgments. And all of these characters use key special vocabulary related to their discipline. These are things that are very rich learning opportunities for students who like to think like Dudley. Now I'm going to talk about the new program for our middle school. While this presentation was created for our elementary families, we know that many parents are looking ahead to what's next, and we want our parents to know that new in our middle school is a GATE Pathways program. That program has a course of study, new curriculum, new criteria for placement, and a commitment to professional development. In the spring, we identified content experts in middle school to come together and participate in professional development using the national standards for gifted education. Part of this work was to develop a course of study or syllabus for each of our GATE courses. The content experts that we call GATE facilitators worked collaboratively to create a course overview for families, students, and parents to see how their content or their course would be different, and also to identify the specific outcomes for gifted learners. As we focus on developing new GATE curriculum resources and experiences for our gifted students, we continue to go back to the standards and look at our guiding questions. The first is focused on the differentiated, challenging, and culturally appropriate curriculum utilizing a carefully balanced system to identify and meet the needs of gifted students with a variety of gifts and talents. The other questions are related to the creative, critical thinking, and problem-solving inquiry-based models that students thrive on. And finally, gifted students really benefit from exposure to career exploration and deep exploration of cultures, languages, and diversity-related issues. These are all ideas that we are continuing to go back to as we start to develop and grow the GATE model. Defensible differentiation is about not withholding opportunities that are good for all learners. Gifted teaching is good teaching, and many students benefit from the work we are doing. However, we know that our gifted and talented students benefit most from this work because without differentiation, some of these students fail to thrive. Gifted learners digest information quickly, and they need opportunities to be challenged by their peers and their teachers to have rich, complex learning experiences. Prior to this year, the criteria for placement in gifted programming varied depending on the school. We heard from several families that they were disappointed to have been guested into gifted services in elementary, only to find that they did not qualify for those same services in middle school. Some students and families expressed a desire for more flexibility in their elective schedules and a desire to meet new friends as opposed to being tracked with the same group of students all day. These are some of the reasons that we moved forward with a new GATE criteria. So for our initial placement from 5th to 6th grade, students qualify to be in our GATE program if they are gifted identified in one or more areas, and also through multiple measures of high ability, which include AZ Merit Proficiency, classroom grades, and teacher recommendation. The full criteria can be found on our website, and subsequent courses are defined by the course study. The most significant change to our gifted program in middle school was the district's commitment to professional development for all GATE teachers. We knew that it was critically important for our teachers to understand the unique characteristics of gifted learners and what the standards are for curriculum and instruction for these unique learners. To date, more than 80 teachers have participated in 12 hours of professional development. The first focusing on introduction to the gifted learner and standards, specific new curriculum. The second course, GATE 102, was an introduction to the twice exceptional learner, students who are identified both as having a learning disability as well as having a gift. We're focused on strategies that allow students choice and tools for teachers to develop the depth and complexity that these students thrive on. GATE 103 is going to be focused on meeting the unique social and emotional needs of gifted teens. We're teaching our students how to take risks and to believe in themselves to unleash their growth mindset and personal best. And then we will continue the strategies for meeting the unique abilities and needs of the twice exceptional learner. I like to say that students enter the classroom as human snowflakes. No two are alike. This statement by Colleen Kessler really underscores that idea. The gifted child is smart, funny, argumentative, intense, introverted, sarcastic, extroverted, linear, asynchronous, withdrawn, creative, pragmatic, highly motivated, underachieving, precocious, spatial, sequential, innovative, sensitive, perfectionistic, messy, lazy, concrete, and so much more. The truth is, some gifted children struggle socially and emotionally. Others, they don't. They're easygoing and can charm anyone. The rest of this presentation is about helping students reach their maximum potential. The social and emotional aspects of giftedness are important to recognize and develop. When we understand and reflect on the learner profile of a child's specific area of giftedness, we can really focus on their strengths and also learn what it is that they need to improve so that those weaker areas have support. When we build self-confidence in those unique abilities, that's when our kids are happy. And parents are the most important role model, and when parents are supportive, the kids are thriving. This is a slide maybe you've seen before. It's pretty common. Characteristics of gifted. Some students are easily bored with routine tests and refuse to do rote work. They can be difficult to get them to move on to new topics. They can be self-critical and impatient with failures and of others and teachers, often disagreeing vocally and making jokes or puns at inappropriate times. These kids can be emotionally sensitive, overreact, potentially crying or throwing fits when things go wrong. Sometimes these students are not interested in details, hand in messy work, refusal to accept authority and being non-conforming or stubborn, and can appear to be dominant of others. It's important that we recognize these characteristics because their strengths also sometimes show up as their weakness. For example, a gifted learner acquires information very quickly, which might make them seem impatient with the slowness of others. Their inquisitive attitude might seem like they ask embarrassing questions or strong-willed. They seek systems and strive for order, and this makes them seen as bossy or domineering. This intense sense of justice sometimes comes across as being a tattletale or a snitch. The creative and innovative gifted learner might be disruptive to the plans of others, and a focus on straight A's sometimes leads to neurotic perfectionism. Sometimes the unique social and emotional needs of gifted learners is about their intensity and their unusual intellect ability, and that can make these students feel ostracized, like they don't fit. Some students develop such great maturity in specific areas, which is why sometimes they prefer adults. But this can create social and emotional challenges. Things like heightened awareness, anxiety, perfectionism, stress, issues with peer relationships, and concerns about identity and fit. Parents should stay tuned to the specific needs of their child so that they can help them deal with those feelings and also become good self-advocates. The good news about perfectionism is that it's not all bad. There is healthy perfectionism. These students are dedicated to high performance. They're highly motivated to finish their work. Some of them are very confident in their own abilities, and they're competitive to be the best. Competition is healthy. Creative problem solvers are so important to our environment, and these kids show up and they persevere. When they develop that resiliency, this is all very healthy and part of perfectionism. We have to be cautious, though, that these behaviors don't become imbalanced and teeter to the unhealthy side, because when students become overly precise and start feeling dissatisfied or disgusted about good work, starting to show physical symptoms, staying up all night working and then turning in late work or not turning it in at all, making themselves sick over grades. They can show physical symptoms of sweating and accelerated heart rate. These students sometimes procrastinate because they're terrified of not being perfect. That can create alienation and also make these students seem argumentative. They will argue about test scores and, in some cases, just avoid new experiences altogether. There are things we can do as teachers and parents to help students manage this perfectionism. It's important that we praise their effort and not the end result. It's also really valuable to help students set SMART goals, small, digestible goals that are trackable. Discuss and model mistakes. It's so important for our students to see that we might not do it right the first time, and that's okay. Teaching a growth mindset is really critically important for all learners, but especially gifted learners. Because of that perfectionism, sometimes these kids feel like if they can't get 100% the first time, they're not going to try. So we really have to help them persevere. Share stories of successful people. Most people in history that have success stories, well, many of them are gifted and many of them failed at some point in their life. Sharing those things helps students make connections. And when you help students make connections and identify their fears, they can start to at least acknowledge themselves and their own feelings. It's really valuable to have strategies like calendars and timelines. Keep track of work and keep track of goals. And help your students decipher long-term problems from short-term problems. This really does give them a sense of control and helps them to remember what is in their area of influence so that they can move forward. Like perfectionism, anxiety can be a problem for gifted children. Anxiety can be a problem for any child, but for gifted, an even greater struggle. It's important to be aware that physical symptoms might be present: stomach aches, headaches, rapid breathing, fidgeting, impatience. The inability to concentrate can be a problem, as an inability to sleep, persistent worries, tantrums, attitude that doesn't seem normal, changes in their eating, extreme temperament or tension that just doesn't seem quite right. It's important that we look for ways to help children deal with anxiety. The handout that was shared in our parent night is also available on the link outside of this presentation. I encourage parents to look at this handout and to really seek ideas and ways to help their child cope with anxiety if they feel that some of those symptoms are present, because it's important that we validate their feelings and teach them coping skills to help them be successful. When we encourage our children to be proactive and to recognize how they're feeling, that can go a long way. And practice dealing with the anxiety and affirm any attempts at bravery. Some children really fear certain social situations, so sometimes there's no way to get around it, and you got to go through it. And so role playing with your child and practicing getting through these situations that make them feel very anxious can be very helpful. The most powerful gift we can give to our children is self-advocacy, teaching them that you teach people how to treat you and that you are in control of yourself and your feelings. When we model positive communication, that's really important for our students to see, to watch, and to emulate. It's also really important when we're dealing with students that we remember that these kids are sometimes very, very sensitive and can be overly excited. We have to be gentle when we communicate regarding feelings and behaviors. This one is so important that we avoid using sarcasm, and do your best not to interrupt your child when they're talking. Let them tell you how they feel. Let them tell you what's on their mind, and just listen. It's so important that we just create this time one-on-one, even a few minutes a day, to connect and talk about what it is that's going on and how you can help process. And so when we talk about processing, it's so important to validate a child's feelings, but not necessarily their problem. We don't want to solve their problems, but we do need to listen. And really, advocating is not about complaining or whining, but it's about asking for what you need and then ensuring that you get it. So choose a small goal with your child and then practice with them, and really set up a scenario that they have an opportunity to speak up on their own behalf and feel empowered to be good communicators. So I want to share with you, it takes a village to raise a child, and especially gifted families and children benefit from having a community and a support system of people that understand them. I've learned this more and more, that there really are as many misunderstandings about giftedness as there are understandings for so many people. And as parents, not only do we want to understand what our students need from us, but also we want to help them find other peers and other communities that share things in common. So the Arizona Association for Gifted and Talented Learner is a fantastic resource for both educators and parents. This October Institute is a great one-day event that's geared toward all things for parents and gifted students, and the theme is Advocacy Blooms Confidence. So I will be there and hope to see you there. Also wanted to share these flyers. In this presentation, you will not be able to click on them, but the links are outside of the presentation, and if you visit the National Association for Gifted Children, you'll find the flyers that were handed out at the parent event. So much of the information that I shared in this presentation comes from these very valuable, reputable sources, so I hope you'll take time to check them out and find that there's some really great resources for families out there. In closing, we are all ambassadors of our gifted students, our most valuable and precious resource. It's important that we seek to understand their uniqueness and not to change them, to provide them with opportunities to foster their interests and their personal passions. We need to continue to teach them acceptance of themselves and of others, and to model good self-advocacy, to be communicators, to speak up respectfully on their own behalf. When we work together to foster the growth of our gifted learners, we're all better for it. I am so honored to be the coordinator of Kyrene's Gifted program and am grateful to have each and every one of our teachers and parents on this journey with me. Thank you